This is Coda Radio, episode 37 for February 18th, 2013. You're listening to Coda Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly podcast taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week is our host, Mr. Michael Dominic. Hey there, Michael.
You see, Chris, I thought of a world without Canonical, and it was so boring.
Well, it's a good thing we're here to keep you interested then.
Thank you. That was the Joker, because my impressions suck, apparently.
Well, then would that make me the Batman?
You are the Batman.
I would be the Batman then in that scenario. I like that. I can get behind that. I can be the Batman today. Shoot. I'm wearing a mask anyways, as far as you know. So we have a grab bag show today, don't we?
Yes, we do. We have a show based on the principle of chaos. That's why the Joker's here.
Oh, I see.
Computer, what happened?
But, of course, yes, Captain Picard, you're going down. I'm sorry. It's over. The fight is over. Give up.
Now, today, of course, you got on the mic on the pre-show and you said, I have gone against everything I have said. I came on this show. I preached and praised the benefits of physical servers, but I am here to tell everyone today, I give up on the physical server.
Actually, I learned this from watching C-SPAN. I'm sorry, Mr. Representative. I don't recall that statement. But I can definitely have my aide get in touch with you, and we can see where we go from there. But I just don't recall right now. I'm sorry. I can't speak on that matter.
Do you hear Brock? Brock says...
He's a jackass.
Yes, I have... Well, we should do the feedback first.
All right, let's do the feedback, and then we'll get into all sorts of things.
All right, so Jeremy writes in to say that I failed to mention that Microsoft has released ASP.NET as open source, and you can in fact run ASP.NET on any server using Mono with any database management system, meaning like Postgres.
Did we talk about ASP and this didn't?
I briefly mentioned why I didn't want to do ASP or why I moved away. I had evaluated it for something and the cost. So Jeremy, that's technically true, and I think one week we did mention that it was open source in the Hoopla.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
You know, ASP without the whole, you lose a lot of the magic if you're not just using ASP and SQL Server, right? I mean, that's part of the nice part.
Your main issue was around SQL, right?
What's the cost of SQL Server?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
I mean, the cost of Windows Server isn't very much. And yeah, you could run it on Mono, but at that point, what's the point? Right? Why not just go to something that's more... I mean, I get it. It's open source now, so technically I guess it could be natively run on Linux, but it's a lot of hoops to jump through, right?
Mm-hmm.
And since you're going to lose a little bit of the magic, or a good portion of the magic, depending on what alternative you go with, you're going to end up relying on further out third-party dependencies to use those other systems, including Mono and whatever Postgres drivers you want to use. And if you want to get back some of that nice functionality, you'll be pulling down some extra packages from NuGet. I just don't see the point. You're technically right, and I know people do it. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
I think it's fascinating that Microsoft did open source it. And now it's not necessarily open source in the terms that, I mean, it's not GPL open source, but right. it still sort of solves a big problem that we've talked about on the show where you're building on a platform. And if that platform can change, and I guess the idea of it being open source is that Microsoft could make some sort of big change to it and then people could fork it. I mean, what's the benefit of ASP.NET being open source as far as, you know, what a developer is going to see from that?
Well, I mean, there's the obvious one of you can see the source code. Right? Okay,
yep.
So it's not a black box. Beyond that, yeah, I guess theoretically you could fork it.
Could you? That's what I was wondering. There's nothing preventing that?
That I don't know.
Okay.
This is not something, I'll be honest, Jeremy, I've gone deeply into because, yeah, it's open source, but the whole point of using a tool like that would be to get the, you know, some of the magic, right? Some of the benefits of the tooling and the benefits of, you know, Microsoft has done a great job with Visual Studio and a lot of their platforms of doing the CRUD for you. So I'm very hesitant to go off the beaten path there. Having said that, I'm sure there are, great plugins and great ways to do it.
Yeah, it says here that there's an extensive directory of open source libraries which you can easily add to your applications via the NuGet package management system.
So one thing to also add is I was prototyping this on Azure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the easiest path on Azure is ASP.NET SQL Server.
Sure.
Now, Azure is a very varied product. You can do a lot with it. It's not to say you can't do other stuff. So you're totally right, Jeremy. Just not for me. So, okay. So John wrote in because I forgot to read his email last week because I think Darth Maul, my spam filter, cut it in half. Writes in to share his sister developed a PHP web-based calendar called kellyscode.com, which is probably not the name of the calendar. Seems to be free. It's web-based. Pretty good. It's in PHP. I know you guys like that, so figured I'd share it.
Are you just throwing a bone to the PHP guys?
Yeah, because they get so much hate. No, and it's nice. He wanted to share this,
Actually, I've been getting a couple of emails on the comments about PHP that I made a couple of weeks ago. I didn't actually, I know I made the disclaimer in the show that I use PHP extensively, and the Jupiter Broadcasting uses WordPress, which relies extensively on PHP. I didn't mean to come off so anti-PHP. I guess what I had said, and I think maybe people just took it the wrong way, was that I have heard a lot of complaints recently from other developers about PHP. I wasn't trying to make any judgment on that, but I've been getting emails still about that. And
I can definitely sympathize with the PHP developer's position, right? Because there is a subset of, I wouldn't say, because the developers who are the problem aren't really part of the community. They're people who copy paste out of Stack Overflow, and the PHP community is being painted with their brush, just like the Ruby Rails community.
I was just going to say,
of the Ruby hipsters being tremendous douchebags to everybody.
Isn't this a huge problem I mean, honestly, I run into copy and paste sysadmins too, where they just go on to Google, they copy and paste the command, and that'll get you so far. But if you don't understand the context or the ramifications of what you're doing, it's going to lead to
and there's stereotypes, like a lot of, I'm sure people, especially in the JB community, have heard all the Microsoft devs do is take whatever Microsoft gives them, and they don't invent their own stuff.
I hear that about Cisco guys a lot too.
Yeah, there's all that. It's all prejudice. It's not very nice. In the PHP case, there is some truth in it, and I think there's truth in all of these kind of prejudices. But there is a lot of copy paste, very dangerous PHP code out there.
Hey, the kellyscode.com says go.
That's the one. That must be. Yep. So
this looks nice.
Yeah, I mean it's done. Hell, it's done in PHP though, so it's not.
So it must be awful then, because we hate PHP. Yeah.
Send your email to unfiltered@jupiterbroadcasting.com.
No! This looks actually really nice.
I like the style, actually. I like the color scheme. Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, whenever you guys work on something neat like that, whenever you're putting some code down and you have something you can show us, we'd love to look at it. Email coderradio@jupiterbroadcasting.com or hit the contact link at the top of the Jupiter Broadcasting website and make sure we see it so that way we can talk about it.
Yeah, and PHP fans, don't be offended. Just
it's just we're done picking on the KDE folks now that I run KDE.
Oh, we're not done. I'm just taking.
I've been running KDE. It's been great. It has been really great.
And what would Mr. Shutterworth say to you?
Well, he's the one that wants to switch his whole desktop over to Qt and QML. So maybe he'd be on board.
That is going to be a rough transition.
Maybe they should just be using Plasma Active. Did you? This isn't. I don't mean to throw us off too far off track, but we've talked about Aaron Saigo before on the show.
Yeah.
Did you see the post he made where he kind of called Canonical out for their vague language, specifically how they're kind of making it sound like?
Hasn't he called them out more than once in the last 2 years? Which one are you talking about?
Well, this one, he was being really cool about it, and he's kind of gotten a bad rep for it through Slashdot and Phoronix, but he basically, he commented on the way they're stating things. It makes it sound like you can write an application today, and it will work across Ubuntu Desktop, Ubuntu Phone, and Ubuntu TV, essentially misleading developers that he's making it sound like, Canonical's making it sound like they have this platform that's not really what it is yet. And he's just kind of, saying it's a little disingenuous and setting expectations high. But
I mean, devil's advocate, if you did it in HTML5, you could probably get away with that.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. And we're going to see images next week, so I'm going to save my thoughts for when we actually see images on phones.
Right, and I have some thoughts about HTML5, which we will talk about another day.
Okay.
But yeah, it's yeah, to be honest, the whole Canonical thing, it's strange dealing with them, right? Because they're in this weird space between a commercial company and an open source business. I mean, they're obviously becoming more of a business. I mean,
absolutely.
I think that statement's pretty neutral. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just there is a need, or they feel there's a need to not be super transparent. But when you're trying to get people to build for a platform that has virtually no market share, I mean, you can argue about the desktop's potential market share, but the phone literally has 0 market share. I don't know. I mean, that is the Write Once, Run Anywhere promise is a big promise that people have been making since the early 90s. Or even earlier, potentially.
But don't you kind of feel with HTML5 and Qt and QML that we could be a lot closer than we've been before?
Well, I think we're closer than we were in the early Java days, but that's a big promise, and that's
the other thing. The other thing that's been different about the Write Once and Run Everywhere is traditionally it has meant write once and run on the Macintosh, run on Windows. Right. Whereas they're coming at it as everything's going to run on the Ubuntu kernel, everything's going to be upstart and all the Ubuntu components all the way up to the very graphical layer, and then that's where there'll be probably code differences. So if you think about it, the target isn't like the old Write Once, Run Everywhere mantra meant. It's a much narrower scope now in what that Write Once, Run Everywhere target must be for the Ubuntu phone. I think. I don't know. They could
possibly. So no one knows yet.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So. I mean, that's why I really haven't covered it. I think we should just wait and see until they release the documentation.
I know. I'm just getting excited. But, I'm also trying to keep it all within reason because it does. I agree with Saigo in his post that it is so far. It's
weird because of how they're evolving. It's hard to, when Apple or Google talks, it's marketing, so you can kind of disregard it to a point.
Well, I disagree on the Apple part. I mean, they will ship whatever they talk about. The Apple will not talk about it until they have a product in manufacturing.
That's fair enough, and Apple actually doesn't really publicly talk to developers anyway. So that's fair enough. Right. If they tell you anything, it's in a back alley.
And then Microsoft will tell you about the product they're gonna launch. I mean, like they did this Windows 8, right? They talked about it a year. Yeah. I mean, it was so by the time they launched it, we knew everything about it. So, yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see it do well. As we talked like last week, I said I would like to see BlackBerry do well. I'd like to see. Even on the desktop, I'd like to see it do well.
I'll link to Aaron's post in the show notes because I think it actually is a pretty compelling read. And, of course, I think anyone could argue that he has a bias here because they are kind of making a competing platform, but not really. Canonical's adoption of QML and Qt would actually probably only really help their efforts, too. I actually think he's being extremely reasonable here. And
Yeah, it's interesting because adopting Qt is actually good for everybody.
I feel like, I guess why I wanted to bring it up on this show, is I feel like we have Aaron Saigo is a developer who is very familiar with these companies. He's very familiar with this ecosystem, and he's writing a very rational, very coherent concern that they might be misleading other developers and sort of the public in general, and he's being slammed for it. He's being torn up for it on Slashdot and Phronix, and it just scares me that when a developer comes out and raises his hand and say, hey, I have a concern with this platform that we're all really excited about, and then he just gets trashed.
Yeah,
instead of having an intellectual conversation.
So do you know what platform that happens on also?
The Macintosh.
Apple platforms.
Yeah. It's
the same thing because I mean, I know this is going to get the hate mail. Canonical is trying to be the little brother Apple, and I think you can assert that pretty safely now, right? I mean, did you see Mark Shuttleworth's marketing video?
Keynote, yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I said on this show, I said if anybody can really pull it off in the industry, I know Shuttleworth has got some good credibility there. Why not? Why not do it if it works?
All they need is the canonical version of Jim Dalrymple, the canonical Marco Arment. I'm serious. I'm not being a jerk.
I have a beard, and you do make iOS apps.
And I love coffee, so I don't like Mercedes though, so that's a problem.
Oh,
but I love coffee.
I do
I'll shave my head. It'll be great.
I do agree with you. I start to see that kind of culture forming, and there's positive elements to it, like momentum and things like that. But there's also these negative aspects to it where people who just want to have a little bit of a conversation kind of get run over.
So to be honest, if I wasn't still doing a large portion of iOS and Mac, I'd probably be running Ubuntu now. So I'm not against this at all, and I think it's kind of what they need to do. They just need to be careful that they don't become a monoculture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's take everything with, especially some of the monetizing the platform via advertising in the we don't need to go into that, but I would be more comfortable. Let's just leave it here. If they sold Ubuntu a year license for $50 or something,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than these weird data tracking things and this advertising deal. And
Mm-hmm. See, I think they are of the opinion that there's just no money to be made in selling a distribution, especially one.
I think they're right. It was just the sad part,
because wouldn't then just everybody go with Mint?
Right, but I think there'd be some people who, if they made it an option, would buy their way out if they could.
I donated on the download page.
Right. Well, what if you could pay $50 once a year, and they turn off all that?
Yeah, but you're asking the wrong person. I absolutely would pay for that.
Right, and I think me, you, and 10 other people would, and that would be it.
Yeah, we would be, exactly. We would be
It'd be me, you, Alan Pope, Matt Harley, and like 2 other people.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it really would be, because everybody else would just download Mint, because it's almost the same exact code with some nice improvements.
They download Ubuntu and just deal with some of that marketing stuff, and they'd be happy with it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all right, so this is turning into an Ubuntu. I really like where they're going. That keynote scared me a little bit, because I thought that was kind of too much trying to be a different company, which is not really their culture.
Right.
But I'm glad they're not trying to be IBM or Microsoft.
The only thing that scares me, and Saigo's post brought this up, is they are setting expectations really, really high, and I don't think they're going to be able to deliver. And I don't think they'll be able to deliver for a couple of releases on what they're...
So I'm slightly optimistic on the desktop. The phone though.
Yeah. Desktop, yes.
I don't know the phone, man. Android's a beast, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, forget about iOS, because iOS is declining. If you look at the stats, it's declining very slowly, but it is. But Android's a freaking monster. Like, who wants to step to Android right now? Microsoft can't do it.
Right.
And then if that doesn't tell you, and they can certainly. Microsoft can do a lot more to influence developers, buy their way into a market than Canonical can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only way Canonical will be successful is through the carriers, if the carriers want it.
And then if the yeah, but that's like getting into bed with the enemy. And all right, we don't need because the consumers aren't going to want a phone that the carriers have totally destroyed.
Right.
Ubuntu, you make me want to cry. So how is 12.10?
12.10 is pretty good. The thing that's really nice about it is that's where they're working on a lot of the graphics improvements. So for the gaming stuff, it's actually pretty great. But 13.04, which is the one where they're doing a lot of the touch work and a lot of their 13.04 is they're talking major improvements in memory usage, major improvements in performance. They're adding a lot of elements to the UI to make like resizing windows and grabbing smaller aspects of the screen much more manageable with touch. I think they really are kind of straddling this line that it could, at least for the desktop, really work out for them. So we'll see. And it seems like so far this stuff's only made the desktop better. Their focus on mobile in 13.04 has resulted in a better performing desktop, which is what they said would happen.
I mean, if they can get a culture where commercial applications can do well in Ubuntu, I think they could be a pretty good niche player.
Yeah, a boutique.
Yeah.
All right. Should we jump on to the? I see you have a note in here about the SNES generation.
Yes. So folks wrote in to tell me how much they love SNES games. These are the same folks who opened a Reddit, by the way, regarding your comments about the Ouya.
Oh yeah, I got a lot of heat for that. How come none of that made it in the show?
I didn't know if that was really feedback per se.
Should I go find it?
You can if you want. I mean, I'll summarize it.
Okay, yeah. Okay, all right, yeah, go ahead.
So if you listened last week, you'll recall that Chris was debating the power of the Ouya in terms of processing power, rendering power, blah 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 blah.
I was skeptical. Now I just want to remind people that I did pre-order one. I'm not being a d-bag about it.
Right, and the Ouya fans basically slapped him in the face.
Yeah, they said I underestimate, was the quote. Chris Lass, you underestimate the Ouya.
Which you do.
Oh, I'm getting from all sides.
Yeah, taking fire. Shot in the back. Ooh. So
they're basic. So they say the Ouya is a Tegra 3 based system. The Tegra 3 should be Nintendo 64 to Wii level of performance. It's cheap and will be sold everywhere, which is, if they get it like in Target, and that's going to be awesome. It will use Android, so Play Store access is trivial, although I think that's an assumption. So Netflix, Hulu Plus, and others will be on there, but again, I think that's an assumption. Even though Nvidia has been quiet, it's hard to believe that they'll be back only to let them use it in name. It has over 100 games in the works, they say. And also I got crap for the comment that I made about saying they wanted to lower the price is stupid. That's not what
let's just roll it back a few, right? Because I think the rest of it gets a little crazy.
Yeah, I just want to say you made a comment they would like to ship it even cheaper if they could. Of course they would. That's their whole marketing strategy.
And I think you were right to kind of pivot, stab me in the chest on that one. That was correct. Because obviously that's a marketing move, and I should have been a little clever about that. But I was a little too enthusiastic.
But, it's funny. The more people talk to me about it, the more I start to kind of think, this thing could actually work. This thing could actually really take off.
I think the area where you pulled all this aggro is that you are factually wrong on one issue.
Oh, okay. What'd I get wrong?
The Tegra 3 is... Now, he says Wii. He's stretching. I think to say Wii power is stretching is definitely capable of the N64.
What did I say?
You questioned it. You said no, basically.
Wait a minute. Are you saying the Nintendo 64 is good? Because I'm saying that's not good enough.
I'm saying for a $100 console, Nintendo 64, that generation.
Yeah, maybe. That's tough. It depends on how they can make it look at that level. If they can pull off some good looking stuff, then it doesn't really matter.
So I ignored some of the hate-filled emails, and I took some of the more rational ones.
Okay.
What was interesting is a lot of folks don't care about that generation. They want the SNES, Sega Genesis generation games.
I agree.
I got a lot of those emails, and I got a lot of, what about Super Meat Boy? What about Fez? What about Braid? Yeah, they'll all be okay on the Ouya, right? Like, that type of game could run.
The Cave is amazing.
Cave sucks.
Dude, what?
Yeah, you like the Cave?
What?
Oh, I'm not. All right. You want to do it? You want to throw down? Let's do it. Oh, Barack. How's that budget passing, by the way? How's that doing?
Ouch.
Ouch.
I actually really like it.
Do you really?
What don't you like about the Cave?
I thought it was awful.
Really? Oh.
You have to repeat all that stuff over and over again with each character because the number of characters doesn't match up to the...
There is some difficulty there, but I just kind of roll with that.
Yeah, I did not like it. What did you play it on?
I played it on my Hackintosh, but it's coming out for the Linux operating system on Tuesday. All
right. So to be fair, I didn't play the whole thing. I played the full demo on the Xbox. I might buy it on a price drop, but right now, at least on the Xbox, it's $15.
Yeah, it's $15 on Steam right now too. But I think if they do ship with the Linux version while the big Linux sale is going on, it could be like up to 70-75% off.
Yeah, then I might get it just to have it for when I
don't know how you could possibly not like this game. Here, listen. I'll just. He's got a clever cave guy talking. It's got nice graphics. What don't you like? It's a good side scroller. It's a good adventure game. Everything about this game I like.
I really wanted to like it.
Okay.
Like I looked at it. It looks like something I'd love, but I was like, eh.
Yeah. All right. Well, all right. But okay. But those types of games would play well on the Ouya. I would think, right?
Yeah, and that's generally the type of game I would like. One thing about the Cave, I bet you if I played it on a PC or Mac, Linux, whatever, I'd probably perhaps like it better.
The controls are a little crappy because sometimes, like, if you're pressing one key, it doesn't register the other key press. Sometimes
I felt it was awkward on the Xbox controller.
Kind of feel like it's awkward on the keyboard too.
It's not good.
No, I thought it was because it was translated to the keyboard, so I was giving it credit.
I thought it was developed as a PC game first.
All right, so maybe you might be right.
All right. We're upsetting the chat room. They want to talk about the toolchain.
Okay, all right, let's move on. We'll get to the...
All right, let's do that.
Okay,
yeah, we'll
all
skip the JDK thing.
Okay,
That's
all
not
right.
that important.
Okay, all right. We'll skip JDK.
All right, so my daily toolchain, I'm going to exclude all the Apple stuff because I don't have a choice. It's all Xcode. So.
Oh, I thought you were just going to be like, Vi, good night, everybody.
Vim, and I have to go. Thanks.
Yeah.
So we have most important part of my toolchain, Git.
Yeah.
Currently on Mac, I'm using SourceTree. I do use so it's weird. I do some Git stuff in the command line like merges. Simple commits I'll do in SourceTree just to make sure I don't commit extra crap, and less typing is good. Generally, text editors.
Wait, before you move on from Git, are you doing everything with GitHub, or do you run your own local Git, or what do you do there?
Combination. I have some stuff in GitHub. I have a lot of stuff in Bitbucket. When I was doing Azure, so that's actually a good point, Chris. Git for me is not just a source control tool. It is my deployment tool. So anything I have running in the cloud, so to speak, it's being deployed via Git.
Okay, so you're pushing from Git to like Azure in this case.
Yeah, I mean the Azure thing is done, but even simple websites are done in Git.
Yeah.
So I have a shared hosting plan that I'm actually Git pushing to.
Okay.
Yeah. So Git is, and that's one of the areas where I think, so Git is probably the most important tool for me. It's source control, it's backup, it's deployment.
Right.
All in one.
Right.
I'm also very heavily leaning on Bitbucket, which is Atlassian's free, not open source, but free source. It's GitHub that doesn't cost money, basically. They have a pretty simple issue tracker for free, and you can do simple wikis, which is pretty good. Beyond that, my text editor of choice right now is Sublime Text 2. Now, Sublime Text 3 is in beta, so I may try that.
I'm a big Sublime Text fan, too.
Yeah, I do switch between that and Vim, but more and more I've just been opening Sublime.
You can find it at sublimetext.com, and I kind of grew to it because A, it has support for Markdown syntax highlighting, and B, it's cross-platform, so there's a version for the operating systems I want. It's also a very functional editor. It actually has like a whole plugin API that I never mess with. Do you mess with the plugin stuff at all?
Yeah, I did have to. So I had to do some Objective-C built stuff via the plugin API.
Oh, really? Okay. Have you?
If you're familiar with TextMate on the Mac at all, it is very, very similar.
Right. I think it was kind of built to sort of replace as a replacement for TextMate. The one plugin I've played with, which was really nice, is opening and saving and closing files from SSH, SFTP connections. So I'm able to just remote into an Etsy directory, open up a comp file, edit, save. You don't normally want to do that in a live system, but the fact that you can just grab a plugin to do that is very nice.
I don't actually have that plugin. Huh. Should put that in the show notes.
There's I don't even know what it is, but there's actually somebody out there who makes a set of commercial plugins, and it was something I bought.
Nice. Well, one thing I like is I'm notoriously bad with CSS tags, or whatever you want to call them, CSS properties. Sublime Text actually auto-completes them, which is very handy for me.
It also has sort of like this launcher type functionality to it, where you can jump around inside the editor, issue commands, load plugins, stuff like that.
You're showing on the screen the Rails support. It can actually do a lot of Rails code generation right from Sublime for you with a couple key code shortcuts.
Yeah.
It has the same thing for Django, I believe, too.
It's pretty nice. It does cost. Nice. I was looking for the price. I don't see the price on there.
It was $50.
$50? Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, now it's $70. I can't believe I paid $50 for an editor.
I can.
Now the nice thing is I bought it like a long time ago, and I've been able to just
the license is perpetually good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just and I load it, and I just go to my little area that I save it at. I paste it in there, and it's on my Linux box. It works immediately. It's nice. But and if you're in a text editor a lot, then maybe it's worth $70.
Because a lot of the folks in the chat room are crying over the $60. So if that's a little too rich for your blood, but you want something like that, gedit's a really crappy version. How much is Notepad++?
I like gedit.
You like gedit? I hate gedit.
Well,
I like.
Do you like Kate?
No. What's the other one? What's the GUI version of Vim that's not Mac specific? Is it GVim?
There's a lot. Oh yeah, there's GVim. Yep.
Right. That's the one. That one's pretty good. And to be fair, my plugins make Sublime function a lot like.
On Windows, Notepad++ is great. It's free.
Yeah.
but it's only for Windows.
I mean, honestly, if I didn't want to pay for Sublime or I didn't have the money at the time, I was using Vim for a long time before that.
Oh, yeah. The reason I finally went with Sublime is I just wanted a really, really, really capable GUI text editor that worked on all the platforms I use.
And that's what it was, yeah. I was tired of switching editor based on the platform because I have it running everywhere. So it's a pretty nice tool.
WinGVim is a recommendation from Bacon Flaps in the chat room.
Yeah, I don't know. See, I don't know all the GUI versions of Vim, unfortunately.
And we have,
there's a lot.
Yeah, Genie is another one being recommended, Geany.
Someone was asking about plugins for Vim.
Yeah.
I keep my Vim pretty standard. Obviously, I have a custom color theme. It's basically a version of the common color theme Tomorrow Night, just like a purple 80s style theme. I love it. I have that in every editor I use.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I love that you're in the 80s when you're in your text editor.
Yeah, I'll just send you a screen cap for the show notes. Xcode looks like, although Xcode does run like it's from the 80s, so it's appropriate. Oh. Well, I used, what is it, Geek Tree? Hey, Barack, take it easy.
Hey, Barack likes Xcode. I can't help it.
I don't know how. He must have like 20,000 gigs of RAM for it not to crash.
Well, he's actually been a little frustrated because he keeps trying to build apps for his BlackBerry. So he's a little confused.
Oh, how unfortunate.
Typical Mac user. Oh, duck.
Ooh.
Duck. Oh, duck. Oh, geez.
Hey, Alan, how you doing?
Ouch. I didn't mean that. Don't write. I was just kidding. You know what? You know what I deserve for that?
I'm trying to jackass. Yeah. I'm trying to think of the plugin I use for Vim that someone was asking about. I think it's Geek Tree. It's just a simple directory tree that kind of mimics what Sublime does.
Nerd
Tree, that's the one. Yep.
Yeah, Nerd Tree is what Ninja Aaron was mentioning.
He seemed very upset. And there were a number of Rails plugins I use for Vim too, but that's not terribly important to anybody.
Hey, how nice is it that we have a live chat?
Yeah, because I forget everything.
I wish we would have more people show up live. I know it's tough, but we do it at Mondays at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern over at jblive.tv. So come join us on a Monday morning or a Monday afternoon and jump in the chat room like these fine folks have and, engage with us as we do the show. Make it even a better show, and we really appreciate that. That was my quick plug.
And now that I think about it, my toolchain is actually pretty minimal. Because other than that, all I have is on each platform I have an email client. On Ubuntu, it's obviously Geary.
I'm curious, you don't have to go into too far if you don't want to, but when you were experimenting with a mono app,
right?
What was kind of the path you went down there?
In terms of tools?
Yeah.
Mono Develop, which is actually not a bad editor. It gets a bad rap.
How was loading Mono Develop?
You mean installing it?
Yeah.
Not bad.
How did you do it? Did you do it from the software center, or did you actually go get the latest packages? Or
I just did a binary, yeah. I just got it from their website.
Oh, okay, and they make it easy?
Yeah. It's not terrible. It runs a deb or something.
Okay. I wasn't sure, because I know that when it first came out, it was actually quite the process to get it installed.
Yeah, Mono Develop isn't a terrible IDE. It's not bad. It's not great either.
Okay. So you use Mono. All right. Mono Develop on Ubuntu.
Ubuntu. I've run it on Mac. Never run it on Windows, so I can't speak to that.
Okay.
I mean, that's basically it, Christy. I would say even more. I mean, second to Git, the most important tool in my chain is probably an email client. Right, because I just send a lot of email.
Text editor.
Yeah. Which is Sublime.
Well, then,
I guess.
Well, then why don't we zoom out from one step from there? So, all right, you get a project. What are you using to invoice this client? What are you using to keep track of your notes for this client?
Oh, sure. Harvest app. I think it's harvestapp.com. A fairly full-featured invoicing and billing system. It does time tracking, all of that.
That's getharvest.com?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, they do your timesheets. Yeah. They have a mobile app you can use when you're on site for time tracking. They're kind of like what I use, FreshBooks.
Yeah, there are. People keep telling me about FreshBooks. I've never tried FreshBooks. The problem is that there's a little bit of an inertia for me, right? I've been using Harvest for so long.
Yeah, no, they do what you need, right?
Yeah, to migrate all that documentation would be.
Yeah. All right. So, what do you use for keeping track of like what they need from you and feature requests and things like that?
That has varied. Right now I'm using Basecamp, but so that's actually a good thing to talk about. I haven't been happy with a project management tool ever.
Yeah. Yeah, welcome to my world.
So I
How's
used to use
Basecamp then?
Jira. I used to use Jira
Okay.
for Basecamp, which is
Uh-huh.
very enterprisey, very good for a developer. The problem is that a lot of my less technical clients have never heard of it, and they just got confused in the interface of the website. So what would happen is they'd get frustrated, and they would end up just sending me individual 2-line emails for every comment to every,
But yeah, basically breaking the system.
which is exactly what you're trying to avoid, so you
Yep.
don't forget something they told you and
Right.
cause a disagreement.
Right.
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 I got turned on to Basecamp because it's what an employer of mine used years ago,
Mm.
and then of course Basecamp deprecated that version and changed to this new version.
Ouch.
It's okay. It's really simplistic. It's basically threaded conversations. Now it has an API that can integrate with things like Harvest.
Yeah, that's nice. So you can export right to your billing stuff.
You can, and it has basic task lists, but it is not by any means a good bug tracker or a formal bug tracker. And if you have a particularly chatty client or a disorganized client, you can end up with like 70 threaded discussions, and you have to figure out what supersedes what. And it's not a perfect tool for the job. It really isn't. I mean,
Okay.
it's also fairly expensive. For the minimum level of projects is $20 a month.
Ooh, yeah.
So this is an area where I've almost rolled my own, to be honest with you, because I just can't deal with it. I've tried a system called Taskbox. Taskbox. Had some success with that, but again, it was not full featured.
Before
Yeah.
we go down too far, the higher level business tools, not Bryant, or was it? Yeah, not Bryant asked in the chat room. Do you use anything like Visio for pre-programming, diagramming, or planning?
No, nothing like Visio. No.
Just picture it all in your head.
So I use something called Balsamic. There's a web-based version that runs in Chrome for wireframes.
Balsamic, huh?
Yeah, with the Q. Have you heard of it? I think it was my tool of the week on the second week.
The balsamic rings a bell, but nothing else about
Yeah.
it's ringing a bell.
It's a basic wireframing tool,
Okay.
web-based, but there are native Windows and Mac versions. When I say native, I think it's written in Adobe Air.
Oh.
But you know what? It does the job, and it's
Okay.
reasonably priced.
Okay.
If he's asking more about UML diagrams, I've played with different tools. I've never been happy with one. There's that really expensive one from Mac that I have that I don't like. I forgot the name of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought it, hated it, haven't used it since.
I've used Glyphy. Bacon Flaps is
Yeah.
recommending diagram.ly. Oh yeah,
Yes,
boy,
they have.
diagram.ly. What's cool about that? It launches you immediately into a diagram editor, and then you can connect and save it to your Google Drive. Gosh, way of the future right there. Holy crap. That's where Google Drive could get crazy, right? As if all these different services
Yeah.
started just like having like a save to your Google Drive option. I guess
Yeah.
Dropbox could do that too.
To be honest, this is going to sound really old school. I have a whiteboard in my office,
That's what I use too sometimes,
and that's
especially
what
for,
I do. Yeah.
I especially do that if I need to go on location and I need to do like a wiring like layout of how I'm going to wire everything. Sometimes it's just way easier to put it on the whiteboard. That's a
I have
fact.
two. I have one hanging and one on the floor, and that's it. I just switch them out yeah.
Whiteboard pick of
Oh.
the week.
You think I'd have a more like technical solution for that, but no, it's just a whiteboard.
No, it works. It does work. Yeah. But I remember when I got my whiteboard, my wife brought it home from like Staples or something, and she's like, "I got something for you." I didn't know where she had been. And I thought, oh, she left the house. She came home with something for me, and I thought, okay, well, what is it? What is it?
Right.
She comes around the door. She says, "Here it is," and she's holding this big whiteboard. And she said, "It's a whiteboard." And I thought, oh, okay, but
Wow.
all right. But now I
whiteboards-
actually love it.
The chat room loves them some whiteboards.
There
Look
you
at this.
go. Yeah, yeah. This is.
Alrighty then, whiteboards. Tool of the week, a whiteboard.
Hey, I like that. Hey, the
Just
whiteboard's a good.
don't use a Sharpie on the whiteboard.
No, yeah.
No, that's just sadness.
Then don't let your 3-year-old play with it either.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the whole diagramming thing is an area where I could use a tool. I haven't found one. I am extremely picky.
And so you're not using Basecamp for bug tracking.
No, bug tracking is an area where I'm still in 8,000 different places.
Gosh, that seems like such an important area, though.
Such a pain. So some more savvy folks are on GitHub, which is great because we're using GitHub issue tracking, and
I was going to
does
ask.
good enough
Okay,
in most cases.
Okay, and so you have so do you have an issue where wouldn't the issue be most time people are like, get what? Get what? I mean, do people even know what the hell you're talking about when you ask them to go there to log issues?
Right. The cases where I've used GitHub are where they already have a development team and I'm just coming in to help with this version of something. Or those cases have been few and far between.
Yeah.
I do internally use again, Bitbucket has a very simple bug tracker. I've been using that. Not too happy with it. I tried Fogbug, which is the Stack Overflow guys thing. Little expensive, and you have to buy into that whole tool chain. So it's really a tough area because there's a number of open source things I could just throw on a server, right? There's Mantis, Redmine. Gira uses Redmine, which actually isn't bad. I like Redmine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's. I'm drawing a blank on the one I'm using right now, but it's very, very popular.
The problem is I like Jira, but it's not client friendly at all, and that's a problem with all these bug tracking tools. It's like I want something that's friendly enough that a non-technical person can come in and describe their issue without feeling intimidated, or worst case, thinking they've opened an issue and me never seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So now, do you want to move on to so we've talked about some of the tools you use to make software, some of the tools you use to get paid for the software. What about the code? Now, this is kind of sort of fitting in with the conversation we had on the pre-show. You get the stuff, you deploy it. Now, in a recent episode, we had a fairly large segment of the show dedicated to the fact that you were sort of feeling that you wanted to have physical access to your server. You wanted to have a physical box. So now, we're 3 weeks later. You sort of changed your tune on that.
Right. So before I jump into that, somebody was asking before and we ignored it.
Oh, okay.
What compiler? So for all the C, C++, and Objective-C, it's LLVM with a Clang front end, obviously. And for IDEs, I don't really use IDEs. I use IntelliJ for Java. I've been trying out RubyMine for Rails, but I still tend to fall back to Sublime, other than Xcode, obviously.
You know, you didn't mention the shirt that you're wearing while you do all of this either.
The shirt that I'm wearing?
Yeah, you know, your special shirt that you're wearing.
I'm wearing
your TechSnap 100 shirt that you'll be wearing when you're...
Yes, I ordered one. Aren't they sold out?
No, if you act for a limited time, actually only 15 days left, you can still grab a TechSnap limited edition 100 t-shirt for $13.37. Now, after 15 days, we won't be making them anymore.
Yeah, so, I got one. I got a nice comfy one. Coming in the
Did you check the back image, too? There's Alan's face on the back, too, with a QR code.
Oh, I didn't even look at the back.
Nobody's looking at the back. They don't know. They don't know there's a back. But there's a back. Because honestly, we could have just gone with the front of the shirt, and that would have been sufficient.
Yeah. Actually, someone emailed in if we'd do a Coda Radio one. I replied that we haven't had 100 episodes.
No, but we totally should. Right?
Maybe we could do it at the year mark.
Okay. 15 maybe days left on this, and we've sold 325. So that's pretty good.
Holy crap.
So,
I like shirts.
You guys go get yourself teespring.com/TechSnap100 and then keep an ear out for maybe down the road we'll have a Coda Radio.
Or a Coda Radio coffee press because you have to make picky coffee.
Yeah, we could do something like that too.
You know, I'm mocking that. I actually have that picky coffee press.
I thought about trying. Well, you're talking about the French press, right?
It's so good.
Yeah, and it seems super simple, really.
Yeah,
it's sort of like
we are not going down this road.
Okay, all right, but it just seems like all right.
Hop in the e-brake, but yeah.
Yeah, make a turn, make it right. Okay, now do you want to talk? Did you finish your compiler talk, or did you want to?
Yeah, that's it. I just want to answer the question. Yeah, someone was asking.
Good man.
Yeah, so the server thing. So in theory, you can save money by having your own server. In practice, it's a lot of work. And I knew that going in. I didn't know how limited my time was going to end up being for this project. So the benefit of and I just started running it in the VPS to start. The benefit, but you still have to manage the operating system. The benefit of the cost savings just wasn't worth it because I was spending too much time fiddling with it. and I wasn't making enough forward progress.
You were spending too much of your time doing the system admin side of things.
Right. And weird things would happen because I developed on the Oracle JDK, deployed to the Open JDK, and something's deprecated and leaks on the Open JDK. That doesn't leak on the Oracle JDK, so IntelliJ didn't catch it because it checked against Oracle.
And did you find that because it was a physical box, you were fiddling more with packages in the OS than you normally would have to try to resolve these, or?
Yeah, checking updates. Where if I was just deploying to Heroku, it would have been git push. And Heroku would have said, okay, he's using this version, Oracle, good. Right, and that would have been it.
There's some sanity checking that it does and things like that.
Right, and it can be a little fussy, but in reality, probably better for right now, for early stages.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. For early, low traffic, couple hundred users max, how can the cloud not be the right solution, especially for rapid deployment and development? I mean, if you want to get something up and just start banging on it, how do you beat that?
And also, so on a related note, the number of security advisories that come up on the OpenJDK and Ubuntu are disturbing.
Well, I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not happening on the other side as well. With the Oracle side, you're just not finding out about it until somebody's hacking into Facebook.
For sure, but might be better for someone else to manage that.
Right.
At least in the early stages.
I think your core point is this is not what you should be spending your time on, and you should not be focusing on this. You should be focusing on your development work.
Right, because I have a prototype too of something done, and I want to now. So I throw out prototypes because that's what you're supposed to do, and I want to actually make the real version. And I think I'm just going to pay Heroku for now. I mean, they are obscenely expensive for what they are, but I can see how they get away with charging it.
How do you spell Heroku? Do you know? Is it
Heroku? Why I sounded angry.
Yeah, well, because they're expensive.
Well, yeah, they are expensive. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, they are very expensive.
They say forget servers, agile deployment for Ruby, Node.js, Java, Python, and more.
Java, but it's kind of janky.
Oh, ouch.
It's not Java's fault. Yeah.
So this is a pretty interesting site they have where you scale up the slider on what you want.
Yeah, but scale both sliders 2 notches for me.
2 notches? Okay, so just up to like the set right there. So that would be.
What's your bill?
Oh, ouch! $683.
Right, okay, so that's 10 dynos and 10 workers. That's ridiculous. That's a lot, right? If you have that much traffic, you should be making money.
So maybe we should bring it down to 5. Boom. All right, so now, well, you're still at $323. Not as bad, but if you're not making money, that's starting to be expensive.
Yeah, and in reality, this thing would probably run in the $100 to $200 range to start. That's obscene. And what's nice is during development, you actually don't pay.
These guys should sponsor us, though, because this is pretty neat. I gotta say.
And they definitely have the money. I've used Heroku before. Clients use Heroku. Then there's always the conversation, okay, it's been 6 months, let's get the hell off Heroku.
That seems like exactly how it would go. It seems like they are sort of, they get it up, set it up, get it approved, and then when you actually deploy, move it somewhere else.
Yeah, it's test if your thing is viable or not, basically. If you can, turn this around in 6 months, test if it's viable. If it is, migrate to something cheaper, because even EC2 is cheaper. Right. Yeah, Heroku's built on EC2.
So it's their stuff on top of their stuff.
Yeah, so it's pricey.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. So in what scenario are you going to be using this, can you say? Still secretive. You don't want to say. Can you say what type of thing it is?
No.
Oh my gosh!
Something that uses servers.
Wow, well that I probably would have pieced together on my own.
It's gonna have code.
All right. Now I'm starting to get a picture. I know what it is. It is the back-end management for all of the future Steam boxes. You're making the new Steam Live system.
That's right. They contracted with me. Fired half their staff and contracted with me.
I think it was only 10%.
Yeah, I feel terrible for those people. They should have done that.
Yeah, but you know what? I bet they have pretty good resumes.
Oh, I'm sure they're fine. Yeah.
Hopefully.
So one other thing that's in the air about this project is what platform to actually develop it in now. There's been a few prototypes. It's seen a lot.
Okay, so tell me about this. What's into your decision process here? Isn't it dependent on what the end user is going to be using? If you're building a custom app,
not really, right? Because everything now is a communication protocol, whether it be XML, JSON, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter to me too much, at least from if there's a client to the client perspective, or even if it's just rendering a web page, right? They can all do that, and they're all very similar, really.
Mm-hmm.
What matters is big things are security threats. Perceived security threats, right? Cost,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually what killed ASP. Because everything else, ASP was the perfect tool, all kidding aside. It was fast. So the ASP prototype was the fastest one to develop. I did it in less than a week. And I went the furthest with it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they have really good tools, and there's a maturity there too, and this is what Microsoft's sort of known for being strong in.
Yeah. It's not it's not to start a flame war. It's just sometimes that's worth it, but then when they start talking about licensing per core, it's not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And having said that, it certainly could do the job because Halo 4 is running on Azure right now, which I don't know if you knew that, Chris.
I have heard some stories from guys who work in Redmond in the Azure division about some of the shenanigans they pull off to keep a lot of that stuff up. So I wouldn't take that to mean much.
I'm sure there's a lot of desperation.
Yeah. I guess things are pretty much in crisis mode all the time as far as crashing is going and things like that. I don't know too many of the details, but I've heard it's pretty nuts.
Fair enough, yeah. And honestly, I'd rather focus on something Linux-based because one thing is it's easy to migrate onto any Linux system from any other Linux system to a point. Right?
That's true. Mm-hmm.
It's relatively simple to take your Rails app or your Play app somewhere else. And that somewhere else is almost always going to be EC2. But I don't know. I'm just talking out loud now. I'm thinking out loud. Cost is a pain, right? The whole licensing thing.
It really is.
It really is a big hang up.
It's funny how many clients that I have are totally out of license compliance with so many things that they use. Basically anything that has licensing, they're out of license compliance almost always. And there's always some BS project on the books to get within license compliancy. And we're always talking about, all right, well, when we get these next machines, we'll be sure to buy them with licenses. And then when push comes to shove, they never actually get it fixed. And it's the same problem in developing. When you have expensive tools and you have expensive server software, people just look at where they can cut and they cut, and they try to pull back.
Yeah, and that's because honestly, we kind of beat up Rails, but Rails can do everything ASP can, almost as easily, right? And I would say just as easily. So can Java Play, but there are other issues there. So can Django. I mean, we could list a dozen open source MVC frameworks that can challenge ASP.
Microsoft's got to do something about this, actually.
Well, no, I think they've done the right thing because for me to even consider ASP was a jump, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. But then you still ran into it. I mean, they only solved the problem partially because you still ran into a roadblock that I think a lot of people are going to run into.
So it's interesting. If I was just willing to commit to Azure, it's not that bad compared to say Heroku. Right. But the problem is I like to have a
portability.
Way out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, an exit strategy.
Yeah, you're kind of locked in if you do that.
You are. And then of course there's maintaining a Windows server is not something I really know how to do. So I'm not sure. I would have to then hire or contract someone to do it for me.
Yeah, that's expensive.
Expensive. when I know someone who knows how to do Linux servers.
That's true. That's true. And, you like you said, then you're not locked in either.
Right. So, Chris, I'm running my app as root. That's good, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And make
Okay,
sure that you just have it accepting connections from the internet.
Yeah, I have it accepting from just like everywhere. The SSH key is in a file called, it's like /www public. This is my SSH key. That's good, right?
You know what you might do is check to see if you have a directory that's in var, and then www, and then maybe like HTML, and then make a file in there called index.html and just put your SSH key in there. That's what I do.
Just throw my bank account number in there too.
Makes things easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Social security number, the whole bit. Corporate number. Do everything.
Now, before we go too far from the Ruby love, did you want to maybe throw out the tool of the week?
We do, and we should wrap it up because I think we dragged a little bit.
All right. What is our tool?
RubyMine. A Ruby... so it's by the good folks who makes IntelliJ. I do really like their editors. It's from JetBrains. It is a Ruby and Rails IDE. So I'm currently evaluating it. It's pretty cool. Again, like all their tools, it's a little pricey. And I don't know if it's going to be able to break the hold that Sublime Text has on me.
What is the price? Do you see it? I'm looking.
I think it's $100.
A commercial license, $199. Yeah. Personal license, $99. Academic. Oh boy, for kids in school, academic, $30.
So Dylan can get me a license.
Yeah. Open source project, free.
Yeah.
I like that price.
Yeah.
Very nice. RubyMine, jetbrains.com, but we'll have a link to it in the show notes. Very nice, Mr. Dominic. That's, see, you bash on it, you abandon it, but then you show a little love the next week. So people just never know what to expect.
And the sick part is I'm probably going to go right back to it.
Now, I'll be curious to hear how all your adventures go, so you keep us posted and all that. But maybe just throughout the week, if I just haven't gotten enough of Mr. Dominic, where could someone like me find you? You
can find me on Twitter at Dumanuku or at blog.mdominic.com.
Very nice. We'll have links to that stuff in the show notes, as well as links to my profiles. And don't forget, Coder Radio is live Mondays at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, over at jblive.tv, and usually jblive.info if the radio stream's working. I don't know if it's working this week, actually. And you can always help us in the chat room by coming up with questions, making show suggestions for the title, and all that kind of good stuff. So we love it when you join us live. But otherwise, you can email us, coderradio@jupiterbroadcasting.com, or hit that contact link and send your feedback to the show, and we'll read it right here. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning to this week's episode of Coder Radio. See you right back here next week.